Hello YouTube, it is EverythingEpan here, and in this video we are doing a video tutorial on how to install Windows Memphis Build 1400 in PCem or 86 box. This is the farthest I'd gotten on the VirtualBox series of Memphis. I'd done videos here previously of a few builds of Memphis, and the last one doing was Build 1400. But this is going to be for installing it in PCem or 86 box here, which is a relatively simple process. These builds have been once you really get the hang of it. But there's only a few things we're going to need here for this, and without further ado, we'll go ahead and get right into showing off of what files we need. The description, of course, will be PCem page here. Go ahead and download that. Make sure you get the ROMs you need for it as well. A6 box will also be in the description to download. Also need the ROMs for that as well. And then the two things from WinWorld here that you'll need, first one that'll be in there is a boot disk. This is the Windows 95 boot disk that I use. And then you'll also need the actual ISO for Memphis Build 1400. And this is the first of the Beta 1 series, fun fact, of Windows 98 or Memphis 98 series here. So once you have everything here, by the way, also for this, you'll need some like WinRAR or 7-zip to extract the ISO. So just keep that in mind when you are downloading this off of WinWorld. Same with the boot disk. You're going to need something like that. So once you have everything downloaded and extracted there, you want to open up your preference of 86 box or PCem, whichever one. I'm going to use 86 box for this video here. We're going to want to add a new virtual machine, and then we're going to name this Windows Memphis Build 1400. I'm going to check the box to configure the machine now, and we'll hit add, and it's going to create the machine. And then it's going to bring us up into the machine settings here. Now, for machine here, again, this can vary. The one that I use normally for my machines is the, for machine type, I do socket 7 dual voltage. For machine, I do the Epox P55EA, which is right here. And then for CPU type, I do the Pentium MMX at 233 megahertz speed. And then I bump up the RAM all the way up to 128 megs. Now, since this is a beta operating system, we'll want to disable time synchronization so that that we can set it manually and it won't expire when we try, to boot it in the future or anything like that. Under display for video, you'll just want to use the ATI 64 GX. That's the one that I use, and make sure that Voodoo Graphics is checked. And for input devices, I usually use the standard PS2 mouse. That usually works best. As for any other settings here, kind of continuing down. So for sound, for the sound card, I just use the Sound Blast 16. And then for network, not that you'll need the network. You can do none, or you can, put whatever one you want. As you can see there, ports, we don't need to do anything here. Storage controller, for the HD controller, I usually just do the IDE controller. For the hard disks, we're going to want to create a new hard disk here. So we'll hit new at the bottom. And then I'm just going to call this Windows Memphis Build 1400. And then for the size, you want to make this, probably 2 gigs should be good. Might be able to get by with a gig. Then IDE and channel 00, hit OK. And it's going to go ahead and create your disk image. And then it's going to just kind of give you a reminder to partition the newly created drive. So just hit OK, and you'll see it created right here. For the floppy and CD-ROM drives, you can disable the second one here. We really don't need 2 floppies. And then I usually, you'll want to select this one as a 3.5 inch 1.44 meg floppy disk here for this top one. So make sure that's selected there. We want to make sure we have the CD-ROM drive on. So I usually just do AT-API with 24x speed. And then we don't need to change anything on other removable devices or peripherals, so go ahead and hit OK to confirm all the settings here. And then once that's all confirmed, we should be good to start the machine. So go ahead and hit start, and it will start the machine. And then to be able to make this full screen, you'll want to do view and resizable window, and then you can full screen it and it'll bring it up there. So it'll load up the machine here, and this will give us an opportunity here to go ahead and insert the files that we need into here. So if we go to the media tab here up top and do the floppy and hit existing image, this is where you're going to want to locate your Windows 95 boot disk here that you should have downloaded, or if you already have it, should be called disco1.img. And then we'll want to insert the ISO as well. So go back up to media, do CD-ROM and image. And then you want to find where the Windows Memphis ISO that you have downloaded is located. So the name may vary differently. You know, I've been going in and renaming mine to kind of have it in the best order I can. But find the ISO that you downloaded from the description, or if you have the Build 1400 ISO, go ahead and insert it here. And once that's inserted, we're going to hit delete to enter the setup. And we're going to hit enter to go into the standard CMOS setup here. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the date on here. So we're going to change this to February 25th, 1997. So that's what it should read here. The time really doesn't matter. As long as you have the date correct, that's all we need. So you can hit escape to get out of that. And then to confirm the change, just hit F10, hit Y, and then hit enter. And it'll restart the machine, and then it should boot up into that Windows 95 boot disk here. So it'll keep booting here, and it'll eventually boot up into that startup menu here. So just make sure it's on option 1 and hit enter to load that driver. And then once that's loaded here, we're going to want to go ahead and format the disk. So we're just going to type fdisk. It's going to ask if we want to enable large disk support. Go ahead and hit Y and hit enter. And then we're going to create a DOS partition. So leave it on choice number 1 and hit enter. We're going to do a primary DOS partition. So go ahead and leave it again on choice number 1 and hit enter. Leave it on Y to use the maximum available size. And then it's going to do a restart. So hit escape. And then we're going to need to actually reboot the machine. So you can hit this button to hard reset it right here. And you can hit reset and to check the box to not show that message again. Because once you hit the button up there every time now, it'll just reset it without that message coming up. So it's going to reboot the machine here. And we're going to load again that top driver here. And so it'll load through here, and it's looking, I may need to make sure to go ahead and recopy over my drive here. So it's going to say that it's unable to read. So go ahead and just abort that. If that does come up there for you. It may not. I think it's more of an issue on my end than it is. Once that comes up here, we can go ahead and format the C drive. So if we do format C, colon, and then it's going to ask us to, or it's going to give us a warning, I should say, that all the data will be lost. So just go ahead and proceed with the format. And then it's going to go ahead and format the drive and ask us to give a volume label. I'm just going to hit enter for no label, and we should be good there. So since we have the disk inserted, and remember up at the top, it was the D drive here. So if we route, if I type it in correctly to the D drive and we hit dir, it's going to have a retail directory here. So if we do cd retail and do another directory again, it's going to have all those files on there. So we're going to go back to the C drive, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a new folder or directory. We're going to call it, we're just going to call it Win9X, because it does call that folder that in a lot of the ISOs from here on out is Win9X. or it could be Win95, Win98, that kind of thing. But I usually just like to do Win9x, and you can see a lot of those files have it on there. So if you hit enter, it's going to make that directory, and then we can go into that directory by typing in cd Win9x. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do copy d:/retail. And now what it's going to do is it's going to copy all of the files from the ISO over to the hard drive. And we're going to actually run the setup from the hard drive here. So once it's done copying the files here, which shouldn't take too long here, it kind of gets through everything. And then the cap files here are the ones that are kind of the bigger ones that it'll finish up with. And then once it is done with those, it'll say that the files were copied. So we can now go ahead and remove the, we should actually be able to keep the ISO in for now. Just type setup there once that's done and hit enter. And it's going to perform that scan disk on the drive here. And it'll bring us into the setup prompt here. And one of the new things in this build was this enable setup or enable sound checkbox here, but it does not work. But once we're on the welcome screen there, just hit continue, and it's going to go ahead and load the Memphis setup wizard here. And you'll see it's got a time on the left side, and that certainly is subject to change. But once we come up here, it's got the license agreement for us to accept. So we're going to accept the agreement and hit next. And we're going to do it into, we're going to install this into the C Windows directory. So we'll hit next. It's going to check for installed components and available disk space. And then for this, we're just going to do the typical here. You can go into custom if you wish. And if you do that and type in a name, it'll give you the certain things that you can install here. So if we go into the details, you'll see it has all of the files and everything in here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually check all of these here just to make sure it gets all of the sounds that we need. And then we can add a network card if we wish. Really don't need to add one in here, so just hit next and then hit next. And it's going to get you eventually to the startup disk portion here. So if we hit next, it'll get to about 20%, and then it's going to ask to insert the disk, so just hit cancel. And here we should be free. Actually, we can remove the ISO and the floppy. So you can go up to the media here and eject those. And then hit OK and next. And it's going to go ahead and start to copy the files over here. So this shouldn't take too long here. As you can see, it's going relatively quick here in the copying file stage. So just let it do its thing here with copying those files over here. It might hang for a bit. During it a little bit, but for the most part, it's not too bad for the amount of time it takes. So just let it through the let it go through the stage of copying files here. I'll come back to you guys here once it's finished up with this stage and it's ready to go ahead and get on the reboot here. Okay, so we are now on the stage to go ahead and restart here. So we're going to go ahead and restart now, and it's going to go ahead and restart the machine here. So it'll say starting Memphis. It'll say getting ready to run Memphis for the first time. And here we go into the next part. So this is the hardware stage that it's going to go to now. So it's going to detect different devices. And it'll go ahead and fly through this portion of the setup here. So now it's going to have you provide computer and work group name here. So I'm just going to call this Memphis 1400, and you'll type all caps work group for the work group here and hit close. And now it's going to go ahead and copy the files over here, and it's actually it says it's from the CD-ROM, but it's actually copying it from the C drive, since we did copy them over from the ISO. So it'll keep going through some more hardware detection. And we'll just continue through that part of the setup here. So you'll see it may take a little bit of time for it to get through the detection here, but if you just let it run through, it should eventually complete, and it will eventually get us to a point where we'll end up restarting again. So I'm going to let this run through here real quick. I'll come back once we hit the next stage or getting to the reboot points again here. All right, so getting close to finishing up here on this hardware detection stage. And then it'll come up again with this setting up of devices. And then eventually should get us to another reboot point here. So we'll let things go through here. And then eventually it should pop up to go ahead and do your date and time, your time zone here and everything. So you can go ahead and select that. The date should still remain as February 25th, 1997. So we'll apply and OK on that. And then it's going to go ahead and go through some final portions of the setup here. So we'll let it run through everything, and it'll come up to a printer wizard here. So on this, we're just going to hit cancel since we don't need to install a printer. And now we're at that restart stage here. So we'll hit restart now, and you can see the sound does work, which is really nice that does work here. So don't have to do anything additional with that during the install or after the install. It is working by default, which is nice. And you'll see now we are on the Microsoft Memphis Beta 1 stage there, where it has the before it had just developer release. Now we're on beta 1. But now we're proceeding here to go ahead and log in. So we'll just type in a username that we want to use and hit OK. It's going to ask us to enter a password. We're going to skip that and hit OK. And it's going to go ahead and do a couple things here and boot us up into the operating system here. So you can see Microsoft Memphis, the version number 1400 down here. So that is all here, and it's got on the left side, actually it says IE4 preview release. So we didn't hear the startup sound, then maybe that's because of the sound does work. So it's probably just that we need to go into sounds and redo the startup and shutdown sounds here. So yeah, we can see the shutdown sound works. Yep, so it'll come up and says it's not able to find the file. So if you go in and search in here, I just want to set it as the Microsoft sound, which is right here. So you'll see it'll start playing it. So now as for 256 colors here, trying to get that to work, if we're in our display settings and we look in here, we can change it to 256 colors, as you can see, but the window here is a little bit smaller than it should be. If we go ahead and apply it here, it's going to ask us to reboot. So we'll restart. And we'll see if it brings us up in, and there we go. It does have 256 colors because the background's a little bit darker, you can see. So it'll log us in and we are good to go. Sound is a little glitchy there too. That happens with these kinds of operating systems, but that does conclude the tutorial here on how to install Windows Memphis Build 1400 in PCem or 86 box. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy this video or found it helpful at all, I would certainly appreciate a like down below if that did help you, or if you did enjoy this tutorial. If you have any ideas for any future videos or want to drop a comment down below, you can go ahead and do so. If you are watching this and not yet subscribed to the channel and want to be kept up to date on when I upload, you can hit the subscribe button and hit the post notification bell to be kept up to date and get notifications on whenever I upload. So again, this concludes the video tutorial on how to install Windows Memphis Build 1400 in PCem or 86 box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.